Good morning.
Om Sadashivanarambam Acharya
Acharya Madhyamam
Madhvacharya Pariyantam
Madhvacharya
Vande
Paryantam
Guru
Guru
Paramparam
Parampara
Pranavavatu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Mavidvishavahai
Tejasvinavadhitamavidvishahi
Om Shanti
Om Shanti Shanti
Shanti
Shanti.
Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Okay, so where were we? We had finished the 18th verse of the 16th chapter. So we are now on the 19th verse. Let us chant. Sri Bhagavanuvacha
श्रीभगवानुवाच
Tanaham Dishvata Kruran
तानहं
Aham
द्विषतः
Dvisata
क्रूरान्
Kruran
Samsareshu Naradhaman
संसारेषु
Sansareshu
नराधमान्
Naradhaman
Shipam Yajasram Shubhan
Kshipamyam
यस्रं
Yajasram Shubhan
Shipam Yajasrama Shubhan
Kshipamyam Yajasram
शुभान्
Shubhan
Asurishveva Yonishu.
Asurishveva
आसुरेष्वेव
Yonishu.
So the aham you have to remove from the first word, tan, aham. And shipam, yajasram, ashubhan. The shipam has to be shipami. So aham shipami. What do I do? Aham shipami. So Krishna is saying, I throw, aham shipami, tan dishvataha. Those people who are possessed of hating everybody. Those people who are hating everybody. Dishvataha means haters. So tan dishvataha, those haters, kruran, who are very cruel people, aham shipami, I throw them where ashubhan nara dhaman. So that is why shipami yajasram ashubhan. I throw them into ashubhan nara dhaman. So ashubhan means the most inauspicious or the most impure among what naradhama. So I throw them into the bodies of the most impure and lowest among naras, among human beings. And when do I do that? Ajasrama. Ajasrama means again and again. So aham tan dishataha shipami, or rather aham tan dishvataha kruran aham shipami. Those people who hate everybody and are cruel people, aham shipami, I throw them into Ashubhan Naradhaman, impure and low human beings. Ajasram repeatedly how Asurishu eva yonishu samsareshu. I throw them into Asuric yoni. So Asuric is not a Sanskrit word, okay? Asurishu yoni. So into Asuric yonis, into Asuric wombs. And what happens because of that? Samsareshu, they go into further samsara. So what is Krishna talking about? He's talking about the fruits of a adharmic life. What is the phalam of living a life of adharma? Kutan. Kutan is simply said here, and Shankara says, Sanmarga Pratipaksha Bhutan. People who are Pratipaksha, opposed to Sanmarga, Satmarga, Dharmic Marga. So Futan refers to adharmic people. Sanmarga Pratipaksha Bhutan. Those adharmic people opposed to the path of Sat, dharmic life. And Dishwataha. Dishwataha means Sadhu Dveshinaha. Sadhu Deshwanaha means Sadhu Dveshinaha. The people who dislike sadhus. Now, sadhus here doesn't mean the sadhus which you think of today. people who are, who are rishis or sadhus in that manner. Sadhu generally means good. Therefore, sadhu dveshinaha means good people. So dishvataha means they dislike good people. They dislike spiritual people. They dislike irreligious people. And this in today's world, in the earlier days, what used to happen was that if you disliked religion, you didn't have too much of place to say it, right? You at the most you will meet somebody also who's somebody like you, and you will go around laughing at others. But generally, people, even if they are not overtly religious, they do have a respect for their own dharma. So generally, maybe among 100 people, maybe 90 people will be respectful of dharma. Therefore, you don't have much of an avenue to talk about your dislike. Those are the old days. Now what happens? Now you got massive avenues. What are they?
Social media.
Social
And
media.
there's so many.
Or if you look at any Facebook post, any Twitter post, especially Twitter, and nowadays they have a new thing called thread. I don't know if you all know thread. Okay. So the whole time, anything you open, somebody saying, I was born a Hindu, but I hate being Hindu. I am an atheist. And then they'll make fun of spirituality. They'll make fun of religion. They think that just because you cannot prove the existence of God, they think God doesn't exist, which is a logical fallacy, right? Proof, absence of proof is never absence of non-existence. So absence of proof of existence is just that. You cannot prove the existence. But that doesn't mean that you can take it as proof of non-existence. But these people, they take it like that. And then they say, I don't want to be Hindu. I don't want these religious symbols. I won't put, basmam. I won't put tilak. You know, in that sense, actually, you have to. The Hindus are, you know, not very strong in that matter. The Sikhs, they have in many countries, which banned the turbans. Sikhs have gone to court, won a battle to keep the turbans. Why is that so? Because they're fond of their way of life. But we are not like that. We are we are ashamed of good names also, right? You have how many people do you find Meenakshi, Kamakshi, etc. Right? I would rather be a Pinky or a Chinky. That's the names you get. So don't be ashamed of being a Hindu. That's what he's saying. That Dvishataha, sadhu dveshanaha. You dislike, good people. You dislike religious people. And what are they? Krura. They are unrefined. They are very rude. They are violent in behavior. And Ashubhan Naradhama. They are unclean and the lowest among humans. They are amangalam, inauspicious. Ashubhan means amangalam, inauspicious people. I'll just mute you all because somebody mic is open as usual. Okay. So Ashubhan Naradhaman means they are Ashubhan, they are amangalam, and they are very Naradhama. Nara Adhamaha. Adhamaha means the lowest. Nara Adhamaha, the lowest among human beings. They are these people who hate religious people, who hate spirituality. And therefore Krishna says, what other option do I have? I have only one option. Aham Shipami. I push them. I push them into what? Samsareshu. I push them to samsara. So samsara is what? Into the path of travel to Naraka. Samsareshu means aneka Naraka samsaranaha. Why aneka margeshu? There are so many paths to the lower worlds. So there are many, many paths. Now the question here is that somebody will ask, Ishvara is supposed to be compassionate and loves everybody, right? How can he say that Aham Shipami into, Asuric wombs, that I will throw them into Asuric wombs, I will ensure that they are born in the lowest womb? You can't really say that. Then Ishvara is no longer compassionate. So Shankara adds over here, commentary, that And he puts it in Krishna's words. He says that it is not that I want to push them. I do not have a choice. Why? Because I am also bound by my duty as the karma phaladata, as the administrator of the law of karma. I am bound. And therefore, whatever fruits they get is why, because of their own adharma. So, adharma doshavatvat. Because of their own adharma, they are getting into these problems. And how many times should I do ajasra? Ajasra means all the time. Because what happens once they go to a lower birth, they do not have the opportunity to generate punya, right? To do punya karma, they don't have opportunity in a lower body. There is no, I won't say there is no free will because the jiva has got free will. So if you are asked, does a monkey have free will or not? What should the answer be? The monkey as a jiva has free will, but the only body which is conducive to the manifestation of the free will is the human body. And therefore, the monkey or the snake or the rabbit or the tiger, they all have, as jivas, they have got free will, but their bodies are not conducive to the manifestation or utilization of that free will. And because free will is not there, in these lower bodies, they cannot do good karma. Their karmas are purely by instinct only, generating neither punyam nor papa, only exhausting karma. And therefore, these people who are doing adharamic deeds, what do they do? What do they do? They first go to one lower womb and then go to another lower womb and so on and so forth. And asurishu is the word. Asurishu, they go to the asuric womb. What is an asuric womb? Shankara says asuric womb means a womb where they are predominantly given to violent actions. Right? And he gives a example, like the womb of a tiger or a lion. Vyaghra Sinhadi Yoni, he says, is the definition of Asuric wombs. Why? And here he adds one nice word. He says Prayasu. Prayasu means predominantly. Right? So he says these wombs are predominantly conducive to violent actions. A tiger's womb is predominantly conducive to the birth of a body given to violent actions. Now the question is why predominantly? So these are all small, comments which commentaries which are made. Why predominantly? Some commentator writes a big article on that. Why predominantly? Any idea?
Because all the time three things would be there. So one of them would be the predominant.
No, you need a better answer.
While being a human being, the activities that were performed were like that. Samskara were predominantly asuric, so it is continued.
No, predominantly violent means there is
Ah.
some activity which tiger does which is not violent. So is the tiger capable of affection? Is a question.
Yes, to
Yes,
their
of
children.
course.
Yes.
Towards its children, right? And
Yes.
therefore predominantly. I mean, it's not very relevant for the discussion. I'm just saying how commentators, what do you call, go kit, and say this means that, this means that. So very interesting, all these commentaries. So into such births, I will aham shipami, I will throw them, not because I want to, but because I am karma phaladata. I am bound by the karma of the persons whom we are talking about. Okay. Then we look at the 20th verse. We will chant. Asurim yonima pannaha
आसुरीयोनिमापन्ना
मूढ़ा जन्मनि जन्मनि
मूढा जन्मनि जन्मनि
माम प्राप्यैव कौन्तेय
मामप्राप्यैव कौन्तेय
ततो यान्त्यधमां गतिम्
ततो यान्त्यधमां गतिम्.
So, first let's look at the word meanings. Asurim yonim apannaha. Having entered the Asuric womb, Janmani Janmani, in birth after birth, Mudaha, those deluded people, Mam eva aprapya, do not reach me. And what happens because of that? Ekaunteya, tataha adhama gatim yanti. They go further into another lower birth or a still lower birth. So, Asurim Yonim Apannaha. Apannaha, Shankara says, is to be taken as Pratipannaha, which is Sanskrit for come to or acquire. So, they acquire a lower womb. They go into a vicious cycle. So, he's talking about a vicious cycle where once having got into the lower womb, because you don't have the free will, the conditions necessary for utilization of free will, you cannot do good karma. Therefore, you cannot generate punyam. You can only exhaust your papa. Therefore, you go on into further of a lower womb, another lower womb, a third lower. So it's a good point being made here. If you do not use your free will properly, using free will means what? Free will in accordance with the instructions of Shastra. So if you do not use your free will in accordance with the instructions of Shastram, and therefore you do adharmic karma, there are two consequences. The adharmic karma will itself produce a papam, okay, which you have to endure, which phalam you have to endure. And the second one is even more insidious. What is that? The repeated doing of wrong karma will create a vasana. Vasana is what? A habit, a habitual mode of doing things. What is the difference between karma phalam and vasana?
And bhokta gets affected in one case.
Karma phalam is
We spoke about
affects us as a bhokta, and
karta and
vasana affects the karta.
Correct. So karma phalam will affect you as a bhokta in this life, another life. The vasana, however, influences your actions. Remember that vasana is also karma phalam, but its impact is different. It influences your actions, and therefore it is affecting with the karta. And therefore, in every birth, there is one act which you have done of taking wrong actions or a repeated set of wrong actions. They will provide you a further impetuous, your habits will form. The vasanas will keep getting carried forward in the next janma. Therefore, you will keep acting along those vasanas in accordance with those vasanas, and therefore more and more papa will be generated, and therefore more and more lower births will keep on coming. Right. So we should understand that karma is responsible for vasana. Yes. But a vasana is responsible for what? For further karma. And therefore the further karma is responsible for further vasanas. And therefore cycle is formed. The vasana is a very powerful force inside you. And therefore you seem powerless. Which is why Arjuna asked in the third chapter. Do you remember what he asked? This is the real reason why he asked the question. What is the question?
Controlling the mind is difficult.
That is not the first. As I said, third chapter. Athakkena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichannapi vashneya maladiva niyojitaha. What did it mean? Athakkena प्रयुक्तः अयं पापचरति पुरुषः.
Why is
By
it?
what
What is
force
it?
is a. Yes, please go on.
What is that one thing which makes a man compulsively do the papam?
Yes. And anichannapi vashneya balat eva niyojitaha. Even though he doesn't want to do, as if he is being forced to do. What is that? Krishna doesn't answer there. That's the answer. Vasana is that which forces you to do, even though you don't want. And helplessly, right? He is anichannapi. Helplessly he keeps on doing. Therefore, saying no to something is easy in the beginning. You can say no to the first cigarette. The first no is the easiest. The second no is the slightly more difficult. As the no's go on, as the yeses go on, the no's become more difficult. Right? That's why they say satsangaha sarvada karyaha, dussangaha sarvada tyajyaha. Do satsanga always. Sutsanga, dussangaha, the company of dushta people, of evil people, of inauspicious people, sarvada tyajya, always renounce. Today, of course, social media tells you that social drinking is okay. What is the problem with social drinking? It is the first, insertion into your willpower, the first knife which goes into your willpower. After many such, what do you call, cuts of the knife, the willpower is just there, not at all. And therefore, Janmani, every birth that he will get, since he has no opportunity to generate punyam, every birth will necessarily be in an inferior body. Ado gachanti mudaha. And he keeps on going further and further downwards. And since he goes on into inauspicious births, mam aprapya eva, he gets further and further away from me. He finds that he is doesn't even know that he's nowhere close to me. Now, does it mean mam aprapya eva? Does it mean that he will never reach Ishvara? Shankara clarifies that there is no doubt that they will not reach Ishvara, and adds that you should understand mam aprapya eva to mean that they don't come onto the path of dharma, that they don't find themselves attracted to the path of dharma. And therefore, where is the question of reaching Vishwara? So, adhama the gatim yanti. Therefore, adhama gatim yanti means tasmadapi adhama gatim yanti. Therefore, only the next birth will also be even lower than this birth. So, they have gone into this cycle.
So, Om Acharya
Yes.
some confusion I have. So, we are saying that here Shankaracharya ji says that, they will never reach Ishvara because they keep falling into the lower births. When we are using the term inauspicious births, does that really mean the lower animal bodies and the plant bodies? Because we tend to understand that these bodies are meant only to exhaust the previous karmas because there is no free will. So,
But they are
how
inauspicious, not. That is why they are inauspicious. Any body in which you cannot use your free will is inauspicious for you. Because
so,
only free will which can generate punyam.
but then like this, if they have more and more inauspicious bodies, then they are actually exhausting their karma. So there will
Yes.
come one point where they may have a birth where they may be able to exercise their free will. Is that
Correct. Correct. When a huge amount of punyam, papam which is there is exhausted, there will come a time when the papam punyam mix is more or less equal.
that's what? Thank
See,
you.
think of it like there's a big, vessel in which there is, let us say, a huge amount of jaggery and little amount of sugar. You can take the jaggery as papam. So the jaggery is also sweet, okay? Jaggery as papam and sugar as punyam. So when you put your hand in first, what happens? The chances are that jaggery will be more.
Yes.
And you keep on putting a hand in. At one point of time, most of the jaggery would have gone. The next time you put a hand, what happens? You will get a mixture of jaggery and sugar. That is when the human birth will start.
Right. Thank you.
Because remember, Krishna says elsewhere that nobody can never say that you will never reach Ishvara. Everybody's journey is finally towards Ishvara.
Yes, that's what. Thank you.
Okay, now we look at the 21st verse. Trividam narakasyedam
त्रिविधं नरकस्येदम्
dvaram nasanamatmanah
द्वारं
नाशनमात्मनः
kamakrodastatha lobah
कामः क्रोधस्तथा लोभः
अस्मात् एतत्त्रयं त्यजेत्
अस्मात्
तस्मात्
एतत्त्रयं
त्यजेत्
Kamaha, Krodaha, Tatha, Lobaha. Desire, anger, and greed. Narakasya, Narakasyadam is Narakasya idam trividam dwaram. Idam trividam dwaram are the three gates to Naraka, to hell. Okay. And what are they? What happens when you go in through those gates? Atmanaha nashanam. They are the cause of your own destruction. Atmana here is not Sajjada. Okay. Atmanaha nashanam. They are the cause of your own destruction. Tasmat, therefore, etat trayam tyajet. Abandon all these three. Renounce all these three. Now, in his introduction to this particular verse, Shankara says that all asuric qualities, asuryaha sampataha, asuric sampattis, can be presented in many ways. And he says that even though, the thinking patterns of people are multiple, are infinite. People can, think in many, many ways. The number of patterns which they have are really huge. But Shankara is saying that they can be reduced to three basic thinking patterns. And this is what he says, this verse is trying to tell you. That all the thinking patterns of human beings can be condensed into three basic thinking patterns. What are they? Kamaha, Krodaha, Lobaha. Therefore, if you are trying to address the Asuric Sampatti in you, assuming that you have, I am not saying you have because you're all long-standing Vedanta students. Hopefully, most of your Asuric tendencies have gone by now. But if a person is attempting to eliminate or address the Asuric tendencies in him, he doesn't need to make a list of a huge list, 40, 50, 100, 200. He doesn't need. Shankara says that this verse, Krishna is saying there are only three fundamental Asuric tendencies. And therefore, just look at the foundation. This Kamaha, Krodaha, Lobaha. It is the foundation of all Asuric tendencies. And if you address these three fundamental pillars, so you can call them pillars of Asuric tendencies or fundamental problems. If you address these three fundamental problems, you will have addressed all of them. And why are these problems fundamental? Because they are doors to Naraka. Trividam Narakas Idam Dwaram. They are the doors to Naraka. The Naraka here necessarily does not mean the lower lokas only. Okay. Unlike unlike the English version, when we say Naraka, we mean all the lokas lower than earth. How many are there?
Six
Seven
below.
above, six
Six
below.
below.
I will leave it as a homework for you. So all the lokas lower than earth. They are narakas. Okay, so not just one hell, plenty of different stages of hell. And also it means any loka in which ajnanam is present. Okay, it doesn't mean that just the lower lokas. So what is a naraka? Naraka has to be taken as anything that obstructs your spiritual growth. In other words, anything which moves you downwards on the spiritual ladder. Right? And therefore, Atmanaha Nashanam, Shankara defines, Yat Dwaram Pravishanneva Nashyati Atma. If you enter this door, he says, the Jivatma will be destroyed. So the one question should now come up. What is the question?
How Atma can be destroyed?
How Jivatma can be destroyed.
How Jivatma can be destroyed? So Shankara anticipates that question from you guys. So he says, he becomes unfit for any of the four Purusharthas, especially for the fourth one, Moksha. And how did these three destroy the Jivatma? Shankara says you should be remembering the second chapter. Where is it given over there? Long ago we did, right? But I hope you are chanting regularly. So, Dhyayato Vishayan Punsaha Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Vijayate. Sounds familiar?
Yes.
Yes, yes. The ladder of spiritual fall, which we
Ladder of
discussed
spiritual
about.
fall. So all this was discussed there. How these three will destroy the Jivatma, making him unfit for the. So destruction has to be taken as unfit for Purushartham. So Shankara says, Purusharthaya Yogyaha na bhavati. He becomes ineligible for any of the Purusharthas. And therefore, Tasmat Etat Trayam Tyajit. Again, when Krishna says you should give up these three, we have to very carefully understand. Because Shastra has said earlier also that totally giving up of desire is not possible. Giving up desire totally is not possible for a human being because he has a mind. And it's not necessary also. So kama tyagaha, giving up of kama, actually has to be understood as a refinement. Let's put another way, a qualitative change in the kama, which is what? Converting of tamasic kama into rajasic kama, and then converting of rajasic kama into sattvika kama. What is tamasic kama? A desire which is immoral, harms other people. So those should be given up straight away. The first step is to give up all desires which cause harm to others and replace them with rajasic kama. What is rajasic kama? Legitimate desires which will help you enjoy your life. Artha kama, all these are. You want better things for yourself, you want the family to be better, you want more money, you want a better job, not hurting anybody else. And slowly, this Arthakama desire has to be replaced by Sattvic desire, which is Dharma Moksha, desire for Chittashvati. Right? The day you find that the Gita class is more interesting, the TV program in the morning, you have come to Chittashvati. The day you find that going to the ashram seems more interesting than going to the bar, you have become sattvic in nature. So sattvika kama will continue, but slowly, even the binding nature of that sattvika kama will become non-binding. When a desire becomes a preference, not a necessity for your happiness, then it is called non-binding desire and as good as no desire. Right? Desire is necessary for many things. We would not have had all these brilliant commentaries by Shankaracharya and Gita and Brahmasutra, Upanishads without desire. He established so many mutts, right, for spreading the teaching. There is a desire. What should your attitude be? If my desire is fulfilled because of Ishvara's grace, wonderful. If, however, in spite of my best efforts, the desire is not fulfilled, even then, Ishvara Prasada. Right? In fact, the very appearance of Krishna on this earth is desire or not.
Yes,
Desire of the
yes,
devotee.
definitely.
Paritranaya sadhuna.
Sadhunam.
Sadhunam
The desire to
vinashaya.
protect good people. It's Bhagwan's desire. So once you handle desire, remember that Krodha and Lobha are only different dresses of desire. And that is why Krishna said, Kamaesha, Krodesha, Rajoguna Samadbhava. Rajoguna Samadbhava. Remember in Sanskrit, if you look at Rajoguna Samadbhava, it's a singular one number, not dual case. He doesn't say Kama and Krodaya are two, but using Rajogun Samadbhava, it is singular number, even grammatically. Therefore, he is saying that they are the same. Obstructed Kama, desire obstructed, manifests as anger, Krodaha. Desire fulfilled manifests as Lobha. Therefore, Kama, Krodha, and Lobha are all the same. Kama is the basic. Obstructed Kama is Krodha. Fulfilled Kama is Lobha. There is no, that they are the same as Kama itself. Here also the rule that the product is not different from the cause. Karyam is the same as the Karanam. That rule holds good. Karanam is Kama. There are two Karyams. One is Krodha, one is Lobha. Therefore, Krodha and Lobha is the same as Kama. And if you learn to handle Kama, you have already handled Krodha and Lobha. And how to handle Kama? Is a long.
Vivek and Viveka.
Vairagya.
Discrimination.
We remember somewhere long ago we said Ishvara Arpanam Buddhi, Ishvara Prasada Bhavana.
Karma yoga.
This is all part of that. Okay. Then we saw that in the last verse there was this Adogachanta Mudaha Janmani Janmani. So is there no moksha for such people? There's a question which just asked. Right? And that is why I answered it there, but I answered it again. Even the most adharmic Purusha, even the most hardened assassin or terrorist will have some store of punya. And whether he has 1,000,000 births to exhaust the papam, sooner or later that punyam will fructify. Once the punyam fructifies, he will have a human birth. And I won't say he will generate punyam. He will have a chance to use his free will to generate punyam, to get chitta shuddhi, to come to a guru and get knowledge. And therefore only tasma etat trayam tyajet. Hence these three should be given up. Okay, there is a story in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. It's called Prajapatya Brahmana, that particular chapter. Okay. What is the story? Once the three groups of people, what are they? Asuras, Manusyas, and Devas. Okay. They wanted to learn Atmagyan. And they went to Brahmaji. Now, don't take it as they went together to Brahmaji. You cannot say they went together to Brahmaji because, for a very simple reason. Asuras have a particular tendency, Devas have a particular tendency, Manushyas have a different type of tendency. So one teaching would not be adequate. So even if they went together, Brahmaji would have told them that you come on Monday, you come on Tuesday, and you come on Wednesday. Something like that. Okay. So Brahmaji taught them all, but used only one word. Da. Da means what? You should do. Do something. Now comes the interesting part. Each group understood this differently. Okay. So Asuras, for example, we take the Asuras. The Asuras did a self-introspection. And what is the predominant tendency of the Asura? Krodha, anger. Right? So they understood Da to mean Daya Kuryat, be compassionate. Asuras went and did that. And Devas went to Brahmaji. Brahmaji said Da. Devas did a self-introspection. What is the weakness of Devas? Kamaha, desire, indulgence of the sense organs. And therefore they understood Da as Dama Kuryat, which is what? Exercise Dama, control. Then the human beings went. The Manushyas also were given the same advice, Da. Manushyas, they did a self-introspection and they realized that their weakness was lobha, greed. And therefore they understood the Da as Danam Kuryat, give charity. And therefore Krishna says Kama, Krodha, Tata Lobha, Swayam Teji. All the three groups have to be told, you must give up what is your weakness. And of course, there is a small little story here which says that in every rainy season, Brahmaji repeats the lesson. How? Everybody hears it. Asuras hear it, Manushyas hear it, and Devas hear it. The sound of thunder, da. Sorry. The sound of thunder, da, da, da. Every rainy season it is said that Brahmaji repeats the lesson by way of thunder. So it is not for. Now you have to ask a question. If Manushyas understood it as Dhanam, we should only focus on Dhanam, not about Dhamma or Daya. And Shankara says, give a very, very beautiful commentary for that particular question. He says, don't focus on who was taught. Focus on who was teaching. Don't focus on the student who was taught. Focus on who was teaching. Who was teaching? Brahmaji was teaching.
Brahmaji.
Therefore, all the values are relevant for all the three. So, therefore, Krishna says, Kama, Krodha, Tatha, Lobha. The idea here is also to say that it is not Krishna's teaching, it is implicit in the Upanishad itself. I told you it was the Brahadaranyaka Upanishad. So from there, from that story, this particular teaching line is drawn. That Kama, Krodha, Tatha, Lobha, Trayam Tyajet. Okay. Now, if I start the next verse, we won't have enough verses to complete the next class. Right? The next class will be very short. Therefore, I propose to leave the last three verses for the next class. If you have any questions, we can discuss them now.
Acharya Krishna has been telling all this, and only people like us read, listen, try and understand. How will the people who actually need to know this, how can they be benefited? How will they get the benefit ever? Through us or any other means? Or maybe
It is supposed to be everybody has a Rishi Rin. You know Rishi Rin, right? Rishi Rin is a debt to the Rishis. Why debt to the Rishis? Because the Rishis gave us this teaching. That's why it's said in the Shastram that everybody is born with that particular debt, and that's to all the Rishis. There is only one way that you can fulfill that debt. What is that?
by
By
spreading
teaching.
By spreading the
after
teaching.
understanding.
Not by understanding. First by
After
understanding
having
and then spreading the teaching. And therefore it is incumbent of all of us to spread the teaching in a small way at least. To your neighbor, start your own class, do something. It's like one of those, what do they call it? The effect which starts with one and then sort of goes on, increases to many. So you may be one person, but you might teach two. Those two might teach two more. So that becomes eight altogether. Therefore, it's incumbent on all of us. The problem is that today's world, since most of us have not been taught this at the early age, thanks to the British, that thing was removed from your curriculum. That most schools do not have religious teaching at all, Hindu teaching at least. So most of us don't know anything until we are well into our middle ages. How do you teach your children? You don't. The children don't see you do any puja. They don't see you do any scriptural study. What are they going to learn? My parents themselves don't have any belief. How can I have? So it is a collective idea necessary to do all this. So I would request that once you know that you have understood properly, right now you are nearing the end of the Gita, right? All of you all can on your own start some small classes in a neighborhood, small little groups, teach Tattva teach Bhagavad Gita. You will find that it grows. Anyway, so with this, we will close for today. Yes, Lata, you had something to say?
Ravi,
Yeah.
I had messaged you also personally on this. It is regarding a couple of chapters earlier, verses earlier. You were talking about a person who, I mean, I'm facing this in my professional life, wherein which boss expects things done yesterday and points out at each and everything. And this is impacting us stressfully over the mind, right? Though we end up working 18, 19 hours, our boss is never satisfied. So, on one hand, it pushes us to just forget that job and stay peacefully. On the other hand, it's the necessity which, that job is giving us. So, in such situations, how do we handle things? So, I'm a little worried in terms of what should I do.
The only thing I can tell you is that ultimately, what is most important for you is your peace of mind,
Correct.
right? So you have to work towards that. You have to look for other jobs which may pay you slightly less, but are less demanding. There are many jobs today where the bosses think that if you work 20 hours a day only, you can make progress. That's not really true. What progress in what? You have to figure out that. So if you have the leave it to look for something else, you must do that. And once you find it, then you take it. Until then, there is no choice. You have to work and get some money. So on all that, you can just tell yourself that this is temporary, it will pass. Easy to say, very difficult to implement when a boss is breathing down your neck all the time.
So true. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so with this, we'll stop. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Mevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat. Om Tat Sat. Thank you for your
Thank
patience.
you so much.
Om Om Om